All right, we are back for our 5 best bets for November 14th here for this college basketball slate. And we do also have an NBA best bet on this video as well, because there's only one NBA game today between the Dallas Mavericks and the Utah Jazz. So we're going to go over that after the end of our 5 best bets. So you're going to get 6 best bets, I guess, on this video, because we've been predicting, every single NBA game this season. And, we're going to predict the Jazz and the Mavericks as well, along with our 5 best bets for college basketball today. And folks, if you have not yet, though, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more daily college basketball best bets, oh my goodness, and NBA predictions here on the channel as well. And go make sure to check out our NFL predictions that we posted yesterday on the channel, our college football predictions we posted on Tuesday on the channel, as well as our UFC predictions we posted on Sunday. Steven Miocic, John Jones, heavyweight championship of the world. Is John Jones ducking Tom Aspinall? He is. He is. Real quick UFC tangent. The fact John Jones is saying he's going to vacate the heavyweight championship to chase fun fights like Alex Pereira, Jamal Hill, and Derek Lewis is insanity. Anyways, let's get on to our 5 best bets here for college basketball here on November 14th. And we start things off here with the 10 a.m. game, at least on the West Coast, 1 p.m., of course, on the East Coast. We are going to give you a pick for the 10 a.m. game, the 1 p.m. game, and the first 3:30 game. So we're going to go back to back to back. We get some spreads that we like, and we start things off here with Utah Valley and North Dakota. And we are going to be taking the North Dakota Fighting Hawks to cover the spread. I do think the Utah Valley Wolverines do win. Now, am I inspired to pick North Dakota because of their in-state rivals, the North Dakota State Bison, last night? I am. I'm going to be completely honest with you. I'm so inspired. I was at the North Dakota State Santa Clara game yesterday. Here it is. I was there. Brandon Podziemski's was there, obviously, on the Golden State Warriors. Crazy. I mean, North Dakota State wins the game 85-76 in overtime, in a game that they were down by about 10 points with 2 minutes to go. North Dakota State ends up winning the basketball game. Absolutely insane. Summit League basketball is crazy. I've been saying that, for years. Obviously, I haven't been making these videos for years, but I've been saying this since the beginning, that since the start of me making college basketball videos, I like the Summit League, and we're going to have another Summit League pick later on in this video, but that's why we're taking another Summit League squad. We're taking North Dakota. Now, am I taking them to win the basketball game? No. I would not expect them to go out there and win. Now, is it possible? Sure. So is the best bet North Dakota to win? No, it's them to simply cover the spread. Do I think they can win? Yes, and we are going to pick them to win, but the main pick here is +5.5 North Dakota. Now, yesterday we took a game, obviously, between Jacksonville State and Georgia State. It was a game that Georgia State was up huge the entire game, and they kind of just choked it away at the very end. They still ended up covering the spread of 5.5, and that's kind of what I'm looking at here. Again, we did give you the pick of Georgia State yesterday, but if you played both Georgia State money line and Georgia State spread, you should have been fine. Of course, play lower value, obviously, or play lower units on the money line and just play the spread, obviously. That's what I'm suggesting you do here. Am I as confident on this game than I was yesterday on Jacksonville State, Georgia State? Not as much. I just don't think Jacksonville State's very good as a whole. Now, North Dakota, this is a team last year, though, 10-6 in the Summit League. They beat South Dakota twice, I do believe. And again, South Dakota wasn't the best team last year, but they weren't bad in the Summit last season. They just lost in the first round of the Summit League tournament to Omaha. And you look what the Fighting Hawks have done here in 2024. This is a team that played Colorado State in their first game, lost the game by about 30 points, and then came back, beat Dickinson State of North Dakota 85-54. So I really don't know what to make out of this North Dakota team right now. Trayson Eaglestaff has been their leading scorer. He is a junior out of Bismarck, North Dakota. He's averaging 15 points a game so far this season. He's been at UND his entire collegiate career. I like UND to the point because, again, they were good last season somewhat in the Summit League, and I think the Summit League's pretty solid. They're taking on a Utah Valley team that was okay in the WAC last season. They went 11-9 in conference. They made it to their conference tournament and lost to Cal Baptist by 11 points in overtime. And you look at what Utah Valley's done so far this season. Sure, they are 2-0. They are led by Dominic Nelson. He is a junior out of Miami, Florida. He's probably their best guy, I would say. I believe he played D2 ball before heading on over to Utah Valley this season. But they're 2-0. They beat West Colorado. They beat UTEP. UTEP isn't very good. I know that, again, they beat UTEP by 40 points, which is good, right? That's great. But UTEP, again, they're not the best team. I think UTEP's going to be a very low-level CUSA school this year. And again, Utah Valley beat them and blew them out the water at home. Now Utah Valley goes on the road to Grand Forks, North Dakota to take on the Fighting Hawks in this one. And again, the official pick is North Dakota to win and North Dakota to cover, but the pick that I really like, and this part of the best bet part of the video, is North Dakota to cover the spread. 5.5, I feel like, is just too much for a team at home in this game. It's an early game as well. I like North Dakota to just stay competitive in this basketball game. Again, Utah Valley said a good start to the season. I don't think they're going to continue this crazy run by beating teams by 40 points in back-to-back games. I think North Dakota plays them competitively, and I think North Dakota stays in the basketball game. Again, will they win, will they not? I don't know. The official pick, again, is them to win the basketball game because they're at home, but I definitely do like the 5.5 point line. Give me the North Dakota fighting Eagles to win this game. Sorry, fighting Hawks to win this game, and they will cover, again, the covering is the main part of this video, the main part of this bet that we are taking. Next up, we move on to the 1 p.m. game. We go on to Lindenwood versus New Orleans. Now, we like this game because we get a 1.5 point spread. Again, I'm always trying to hunt for value. I'm always trying to hunt for games where we can get, very close spreads so we can just straight up play money lines, and that's what we like here. We're taking the 0-2 New Orleans Privateers to win this basketball game out of the Southland Conference, taking on the Ohio Valley Zone in Lindenwood. Lindenwood is 1-1. They lost to Oklahoma by 33 points, and they just beat a team by 58 points. And we're talking about the University of Health Sciences and Pharmacy Euthetics. I believe that's the right, Euthetics. Anyways, we get nothing out of that game, guys. Lindenwood beat a D3 school by 50 points, 70 points. Who gives a damn? They lost to Oklahoma by 33, but we really can't, again, gauge anywhere about how Lindenwood is, we can't really gauge how good Lindenwood is right now because they lost to Oklahoma, SEC school, and then they beat a team that shouldn't have been playing them. Right, Lindenwood last season, what we can take out of this, Lindenwood last season was 3-15 in the Ohio Valley Conference. Their best player last year, Keaton Cole, has graduated. He was a senior last year, and he led their team in points pretty much every single night. This is a team that didn't even make their conference championship game last year. They won 3 games in conference to Southeast Missouri State, who they beat twice, who's probably the worst team in the conference, and then they beat the Southern Indiana Fighting Hawks, whatever the hell they are. That was just literally the last team the Screaming Eagles. Anyways, Southern Indiana's 1-3. We've picked against them multiple times so far on the channel this year. The Privateers, I get it, they were horrible too. The Privateers were really bad last season. They were 4-14 in conference over in the Southland Conference. They went 10-23 as a whole. They weren't good. I completely understand that. I completely get that. Their best player last year, Jordan Johnson, has graduated. So, I mean, these are two schools who, again, saw limited success last season, but feel like they're not even going to be, I wouldn't say close, but they're not even going to be what they were last year as well. I mean, Lindenwood and New Orleans are going to struggle a lot this season. So this is where we bet on crappy basketball. We bet on New Orleans here, right? We get North Dakota in the opener, and now, again, you want to keep the momentum pushing. You want to keep the blood flowing. So now we bet on the Privateers to win this game. Again, they're 1.5 point dogs in this game, about even money on the line. We're taking the Privateers to go out here and win this basketball game. In their last one against Troy, they got 23 points out of James White, the senior out of Georgia, and their loss to Kansas State, they got blown out in that one, but they got a good 19-point performance in that one for the sophomore out of Greenville, North Carolina. We're talking about their point guard in Ja Short. Again, Lindenwood is a school who, again, is 1-1. Don't know what to make out of it so far. Jadis Jones has been their best guy this season. He's a freshman out of Missouri. I like New Orleans to win this game. New Orleans is at home. I think, actually, is this at a neutral site? This might be at a neutral site. Hold on. I kind of assumed this game was at New Orleans, but actually this might be this is definitely at a neutral site, isn't it? Regardless, I like New Orleans to win this game. Again, I feel like this is a perfect buy low spot, and I get it. New Orleans is absolutely atrocious this season. I completely get that. Yes, it's definitely at a neutral site because the game's in Moon Township, Pennsylvania. Great. I get it, they're 0-2, but you look at how bad Lindenwood was last season. They beat up on a crappy school. I'm fine taking New Orleans here. Give me the Privateers to win. This is the least confident pick in the entire video, but still, give me the New Orleans Privateers to win the game, and I think they will, again, cover the 1.5 points. Just take the money line. We're going with New Orleans. Next up, we move on to the 3:30 game. Again, we're hitting back-to-back the first 3 games of the Thursday slate, and now we get East Michigan on the road in Indianapolis against IU Indianapolis, the IUPC Jaguars. IUPUI, excuse me, my goodness. For IUPUI, they're 2-1, but look who they beat, IU Columbus, and they beat Goshen. They lost to Xavier by 14 points. In their last game, they got 27 points out of Paul Zilinskas from Lithuania. He is a senior He was at, I don't even know what school he was at before, playing at IU Indy IU Indy this season. And now, IU Indianapolis is taking on Eastern Michigan. Eastern Michigan might have been the worst team in the Mid-American Conference last season. They went 6-12, but they played some really bad games, lost to some really bad teams. I'm not gonna lie, they lost to Buffalo, who was absolutely horrible last season. They lost to some bad teams. Okay, I get it. They lost to North Dakota as well, who we talked about earlier on in the video. Their leading scorer last season was Tyson Acuff, and now he is at Rutgers. He went from averaging, 23 points a game for Eastern Michigan last season, and now he struggles to see the court for Rutgers. He's averaging 2.5 points so far this season. That's brutal. Again, the transfer portal is absolutely brutal in college basketball. I mean, again, this is a guy who led Eastern Michigan in scoring every single night, and now he goes to the Power 5, goes to the Big Ten, and he can't get PT. It's crazy. Okay. For Eastern Michigan, they did lose their first game. They only scored 44 points. They lost to Texas State by 20. They came back, though, in their second game. They beat Siena Heights. Okay, they got 32-10 in that game from their senior forward in Jaleel Billingsley from Cleveland, Ohio. All right, we'll take that. For IU Indianapolis, again, I don't know what to make of this team. They haven't beaten anybody good yet this year. They beat in 2 D2 schools. And IU Indianapolis was atrocious last season. They went 2-18 in conference. They were really bad in the Horizon League last year. Their only wins in conference was Purdue, Fort Wayne, and I believe Detroit Mercy, I think. I mean, that's atrocious, man. That's bad. Again, the theme of today's video, at least for the first 3 games, is we're betting on low-level college basketball. But my thing with this game is, I think Eastern Michigan is the better school. I think they are. They got worse in the portal, sure, but I think they're the better team going into this game. I don't think IU Indianapolis made crazy advances in the portal and in the off season as well. I mean, they lost Jalen Counter to Middle Tennessee. He was one of their leading scorers last year. I'm fine taking Eastern Michigan in this game. We're going to rely on Jalen Billingsley to have a big day, and we're going with the Eagles to win this game out of the Mid-American Conference. I like them to go to Indianapolis and win this game, so they are the plus 1.5 point dogs. We're taking them to straight up win the game. So we got to get 2 money line picks back to back. Give me New Orleans in the last one, East Michigan in this one. Again, we are betting on low-level college basketball, but we're going to take the Eastern Michigan Eagles in this game to go to Indianapolis and beat IUPUI. Next up, we go to that aforementioned Summit League team that I really like, and we picked them earlier in the season as huge underdogs against McNeese. They beat Long Beach State by 1 point in their second game, and now we are back taking the Jackrabbits again. This game is in Brookings. Oh, it's not. It's in Arkansas. Oh, that's rough. It's a neutral site. Regardless, I'm still fine with South Dakota State winning this game. Northern Colorado has to go the same distance down to Arkansas than what South Dakota State has to. Now, again, I would have liked this better if this game was in Brookings, South Dakota, but it's fine. Give me the Jacks. Guys, get used to it, but we're going to be picking the Jackrabbits a lot this season. They are 2-0. This is going to be the team that's going to win the Summit League. Hey, you want to talk about superstars in college basketball right now? Again, we will see how far Kansas does go this season, right? We will see where they end up, right? You've got Hunter Dickinson, who obviously is their big star, right? I mean, Dickinson was their guy last season. I get it. But you know who's also performing for that team? It's Zeke Mayo. It's Zeke Mayo. Zeke Mayo was a South Dakota State guy last year. South Dakota State, I said this when we picked them to beat McNeese, but South Dakota State, and I once at one point in time was a South Dakota State Jackrabbits basketball fan. I'm not joking with you. But South Dakota State has been on top of the Summit League for the last 6 years. They have seen NBA talent and very good talent walk in and out the door in Brookings before. We've seen guys like Mike Dahm, who once upon a time got a shot with the Portland Trail Blazers Summer League team, right? You saw Mike Dahm, who was one of the all-time leading scorers in all of college basketball history, play for South Dakota State. We've seen guys like David Jenkins Jr., who left to go play for UNLV and eventually play for Utah right after as well, but he was the starting point guard for South Dakota State for a while as well. We've seen guys like Baylor Shireman, who was a good player for South Dakota State, but really found his footing at Creighton. We've seen players like Skylar Flatten, who played for the Miami Heat for a very short time after playing for South Dakota State and that team that lost to Ohio State in the first round of the tournament back in 2017, I think. Yeah, God, I think it was 17. Yeah, I think it was. Or maybe it was 18. Might have been 18. Regardless, we've seen great players. Zeke Mayo is another example who has walked in and out the door at South Dakota State, but you know what happens? South Dakota State knows how to win. The Jackrabbits win year in and year out, and they will continue to do it. Give me the Jackrabbits to beat Northern Colorado. We haven't talked about Northern Colorado. There's not much to talk about. They are led by their power forward, their small forward in Isaiah Hawthorne. Hawthorne's averaging 17 points a game so far this season. He is a senior. He was a USF guy, obviously the University of San Francisco. Now here he is with Northern Colorado. That's great. Northern Colorado took the University of Colorado, the Buffaloes, to double overtime a couple games ago. It lost at 90-88. Their wins are Colorado College and Colorado Christian. Okay, now you get to play a real basketball team. No offense to Colorado, but the Jacks are ready to play, man. The Jackrabbits are ready to go in this one. Give me Joe Saylor, give me Oscar Clough, give me Owen Larson. I mean, give me the boys out of Brookings. Oscar Clough is averaging 14 boards a game and 19 points a game as well. Give me the Jackrabbits. We are going to be picking the Jackrabbits this entire season, so watch out. But we're going to continue to pick them here tonight. Give me the South Dakota State Jackrabbits to beat up on Northern Colorado. 2.5 points is not enough. Neutral site game in Arkansas. Don't give a damn. They beat McNeese in a neutral site game earlier this season. We love the Jackrabbits. Give me South Dakota State to go out there and beat Northern Colorado. They will do it by more than 3 points. We go into our final college basketball best bet, and we go to Arizona. All right? It is a neutral site game. I mean, again, both these schools are in Arizona, but it is in Phoenix. It is at the Phoenix Suns Arena. We've got the Arizona State Sun Devils taking on the Grand Canyon Lopes. I think these two teams are more competitive than a 5-point spread offers, okay? I don't care if the Lopes were the dogs, if the Sun Devils were the dogs. I'd be taking whoever it is to cover the spread in this game. The underdogs. These two teams are a lot closer than 5.5 points, okay? There's a possibility Arizona State wins the game. I do think Grand Canyon will win the game. I think they're the better team. But what I am going to say is that I don't think Arizona State's going to lose the game by more than 5 points. By more than 6 points, excuse me. I don't think it's going to happen. Okay? Now, the Arizona State win that we once raved about when they beat the Santa Clara Broncos, it doesn't have the same weight anymore now that Santa Clara just lost to the North Dakota State Bison, which is ridiculous. I mean, the Levy Center was in shambles tonight. I'm serious. I was there. It was brutal. It was funny because I bet on North Dakota State. It was a bet I, didn't obviously put in the video yesterday because I wasn't going to bet on North Dakota State. I just decided to go to the game literally 10 minutes before the game started. I was like, you know what? I got something to keep me entertained here. So I'm going to bet on North Dakota State. We took North Dakota State to cover the 15.5 points when the game started, and I took them again in overtime to straight up win the game, and they did. The Bison, I mean, those dudes are dogs. Anyways, the Arizona State win over Santa Clara doesn't really hold the same weight now that SC's 1-2, but I don't think Santa Clara is going to be that bad. I think once they figure things out with Ball and company, I think they'll be okay as the season progresses. I just want to see them in West Coast, conference play, and we'll see how they adjust. But Arizona State's lost to Gonzaga. They go to Spokane. They only lose the game by 8 points. That's not bad. Again, they didn't win the game, but they were competitive in the first half, and they were competitive until it wasn't in that second half. I'm okay with taking Arizona State to cover here against the Lopes. Again, I like the Lopes a lot. Obviously, this was a tournament team last season. Grand Canyon beat St. Mary's in the first round, then ended up losing to Alabama. But again, shout out to Grand Canyon. They're a great basketball team. They brought back Tylen Grant Foster, who was their big star last year in the NCAA tournament, dropped 29 in the Bama game, 22 in that win over St. Mary's. And again, Grand Canyon is 2-0 so far this season, beating Cal State Fullerton and beating Western Kentucky. Now, the WKU win, though, only beating that school by 2 points. I get WKU was the COSA champions last year. I watched them play in the tournament against Marquette in the first round. They're not a bad team. They can shoot. Still, though, Arizona State should be able to stay competitive with Grand Canyon as well. Again, I do think the Lopes win the basketball game. I truly think they do. You have a guy here in Jacoby Coles who's been playing lights out so far this season as well. He's averaging 21 and 12 so far this season. The former TCU product has come into Grand Canyon and played really well. Senior, again, he's a senior out of Texas. I like the Lopes to win the basketball game, but I don't think they're that many points better than Arizona State. I think this is going to be a very close game. Again, we've seen Arizona State play competitive basketball this season already with one of the best schools in the country, if not the best school in the country right now in Gonzaga. I mean, hell, watch the way Gonzaga blew out Baylor earlier this season. I mean, they're a good basketball team right now. I think the Lopes, again, win the game, but I do think Arizona State's able to keep it close. So give me Arizona State to cover the 5.5 points, but I do like the Lopes to straight up win. As we go on to our one NBA game of the day, we have got the Dallas Mavericks taking on the Utah Jazz. We like the Dallas Mavericks to cover the 9.5 points. This team has to figure it out eventually, right? They're 5-6, 3 straight losses. Obviously, they had the big game where they had to go on the road to Golden State. Klay Thompson's return to San Francisco to take on the Warriors, and they lost. Razor thin game, Steph Curry, though, and obviously the clutch genes by Curry took over, and the Warriors ended up winning the game in the fourth quarter. But 3 straight losses for the Mavericks, but those losses are to the Suns, Nuggets, and the Warriors. You go on the road to Utah in this one, you should be able to win, obviously. I mean, that goes without saying. It's just a matter of if they can cover or not. The Jazz, they have been playing better, right? They had the longest stretch of the season up until the Bulls game where they finally won. I mean, the Jazz, they were, they were 0-6 at the time, and we were saying, well, this team still hasn't played a competitive basketball game yet. Other than their opener against the Grizzlies, right? They had got blown out every single week. I'm not going to pick this team to win a game, and obviously they did. They beat the Bulls, and now they've beat the Spurs, too, which is confusing. I mean, shout out to Wemby, though, by the way, scoring 50 points last night against the Washington Wizards. I mean, who's the Jazz's number one scorer? Is it John Collins? Is it Lauri Markkanen? Is it Colin Sexton? I don't think it is Collins because he's coming off the bench still, but maybe he is. Maybe he is the most consistent scorer on that Utah Jazz team. Regardless of that, again, this is a Jazz team without an identity. The Mavericks, again, we've said time in and time out, they need to find production elsewhere other than both Luka and Kyrie. I mean, obviously these guys are going to kill it, but Klay's not a true number 3 at this point of his career. He's just not. I don't think he's a reliable number 3. They need another piece in this Mavericks team. If the Mavs are looking to make another run, obviously, I mean, they're the defending Western Conference champions. If they're going to try to go back, I don't think they can just get by with Luka and Kyrie for a second straight season. Maybe they can, but that's just kind of the way I see it so far. Give me Dallas to win the basketball game. I do think they straight up win it in Utah, and I think they will cover the spread as well. They're the much better team. Again, Utah still struggles to find an identity, and as a whole, as you look at both these schools, I'm in the college basketball mindset. When you look at both these teams, the Mavericks are just the better all-around basketball team, and they have the 2 best players on the court. So that's why we're taking the Dallas Mavericks to win, and we are also taking them to cover the 9.5 points as well on the road in Salt Lake City, Utah. So, folks, that'll do it for our best bets, our 5 best bets for college basketball, and, of course, our 1 NBA prediction here for November 14th. We'll be back tomorrow for more college basketball best bets and a full slate of NBA action. So make sure you join us for that tomorrow, folks. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.